Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of Campus Debates. Yet another episode, yet another show. We are glad to have you here. My name is Mercy Vugutsa, a debater at heart, a judge occasionally, and from tonight, I will be your host for Campus Debates season 2. If you are a returning guest, welcome to season 2. And if you're the first-time viewer, what is Campus Debates about? It's basically a show where intellectuals come together to argue important issues existing in society, issues that affect you, the people that you know, and anyone in general. Why is Campus Debates so unique? University students are at the heart of this debate, engaging in the intellectual discourse for what exists in society. And without further ado, we will welcome our speakers for tonight. From Side Proposition, we have students from MKU, Mount Kenya University, here. And from Side Opposition, we have students from the University of Nairobi, here. Now, before we get on to the judges, a few questions to allow you to get to know our speakers a little bit better. While they're responding, they will tell us their name and basically what they do in life.
Thank you so much. My name is Kerry Mwita, a student at Mount Kenya University, Parklands Law Campus, and a spirited defender of human rights. Thank you.
Ladies, gentlemen, my name is Daniel Wambua Moisio, senior law student, Mount Kenya University School of Law, Parklands. Parklands, very important. And by the way, the suit is Italian for the lawyers. What I do in life, apart from pursuit of knowledge, I take care of my mom. That's all.
So we have heard from Side Proposition. They are both law school students. One is a senior, the other we might not know. And they love issues about human rights and taking care of the people that they love. Here for Proposition. We will now allow Opposition to introduce themselves and help us to get to know them a little bit better.
Hi guys, my name is Paul Kitui. I go to UON, also law. And it's a bit anticlimactic because I'm clearly not dressed in Italian. But we believe it is in the spirit of discourse that we are here. I also debate and I like gaming and watching YouTube. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Baraza Olwach. I am from University of Nairobi, Parklands as well, law student. And apart from being a debater, I'm a student and I'm also my parents' child.
So from Side Opposition, they are also law students and they love life, and specifically from the first speaker, they are a lover of watching YouTube specifically. So apparently this debate has boiled down to law students arguing and debating important issues in society. A few things that we need to learn about this system of debating are, one, these teams are going to compete for a winning slot and a losing slot ideally. Winning team gets 3 points, losing team gets 1 point. But do not be discouraged. We will also have speaker scores that will elevate you on the tab. If you have good speaker scores, then you're higher on this scale. If you have lower speaker scores, you'll be battling for your lives whenever we have our knockout rounds. Here. So, on to this debate, we will welcome our judges to introduce themselves and help us to know a little bit about themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Wycliffe Otieno. I'll be the chair for this round. I'm also a spirited debater. I have a suit, it's from Italy as well. I'll remember to carry it next time. Looking forward to a very lovely discussion from the lawyers from Parklands campus. I know there's UON, there's MKU, and just hoping that they do take care of us as well and give us a very lovely debate. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Brian Windy. Actually, again, I love the suit. I hope the debate will be best suited for you. And equally for the whole team and the whole debate as well, I hope it's equally mentally attractive.
Hi everyone, my name is Charity Mushiri. I'm a communications scholar and a public speaker at heart, but a debate judge for a hobby other than that. But I love listening to ideas battle and I'm ready to see the battle roar. So you guys suit up and face each other.
Now, we have known our judges, we have known the speakers, and so we are ready for the debate. The motion for today reads, this House will allow prisoners to commute their sentence in exchange for enlisting in the military. This House will allow prisoners to commute their sentence in exchange for enlisting in the military. What does this motion mean, you might ask? So if you are convicted in prison, you have two options. To one, either go to prison, or two, be part of the military. That is the basic understanding for this debate, and we are ready to be enlightened by our speakers. We call to the floor the first speaker proposition side to begin the debate for us. Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to address this motion today from the proposition side. So the motion is this House will allow prisoners to commute their sentence instead of enlisting to the military. So I'm going to give definition of key terms in this motion. One is commute. This House will allow prisoners to commute. To commute is basically, not this time in relation to transport, but in relation to mitigate the sentence, rather than we are basically mitigating or substituting the sentence instead of enlisting prisoners to the military. Second, I'm going to define what a sentence is. And so a sentence is a punishment given by a court of law to a person who has been convicted of an offense. That means they have been found guilty. The last word that I'm going to define here is enlisting in the military. This basically means to join previously either convicted criminals or previously convicted to the military instead of having them commit their sentence. So to enlist is essentially to join. And so our motion, the proposition team is going to discuss in the scope of three types of prisoners. That is the minimum security inmates, low security inmates, and medium security inmates. And so minimum security inmates are usually inmates that have been convicted of petty offenses. The other types of inmates that are low security inmates are inmates that have, during their conviction, they have a slightly higher security as compared to the minimum security inmates. And so the medium inmates, which will be lastly focusing on, are prisoners that have been convicted for not less than 30 years, which in this regard, more than 30 years are usually felonies. Felonies are extreme offenses, so to say. I'm going to issue my points in four parts. So the first one, I'm looking at the importance of having prisoners commute their sentence rather than having them enlist to join the military. So the first one, it's very essential for them to do that because it enables them to utilize their skills. So it enhances the utilization of skills. When we have prisoners enlisted to join the military, it's going to hinder them from certain things. And the two major types of things that is going to limit them from doing is one, advancing their occupational or practicing their occupational specialities. When they join the military, they're going to be so committed in the battlefield and doing military work rather than advancing and practicing the occupational specialities. It will also hinder them from advancing their skills through training. When you join military, again, you're so committed. You cannot advance your training because you are either serving the country or you're training. You cannot serve two masters at a time. So the second point I'm going to talk about is on military hindering utilization. I'm going to give a practical example. Recently, the government said they're sending soldiers to Haiti. That was an example, right? So assuming this soldier is sent to Haiti, they cannot get, if he was a doctor, for instance, he or she cannot get to practice in that country because you do not just fly into a country, jet in there, and you're given a practicing license. The other one is on legal barriers and restrictions. So even if these prisoners would have been enlisted to join the military, it will still, they will still be affected by legal barriers and restrictions. Take instance of someone who has been convicted of serial killings, or a capital offense, that is. Such a person cannot be able to ascend through the ranks of military. He cannot join something, maybe a sensitive docket like the presidential escort. So what is the importance of bringing someone to the field where they have a limited scope of and prospects of advancing their skills and prowess? And the other point I'm also going to talk about is on potential trauma and resurgence. I'm looking and I'm thinking about this person who has been charged of an offense like, say, possession of stolen property. Someone who has been charged of the offense of stolen property does not necessarily mean that this person stole. Simply because I bought my phone and I did not know that it was stolen, that already poisons me and I'm convicted of an offense of possession of stolen property. So this person is innocent. And when you're convicted of an offense and you're innocent, it's going to cause trauma in your life because you're serving a sentence and deep down you know you did not commit this offense. So how productive are you going to be in the military? I'm thinking about the prospects of you concentrating, be able to do your military duties. When you're being accused of something, you're traumatized, you've developed mental health complications, say like post-traumatic stress disorder, it's going to affect your productivity gravely because it's going to cause resurgence of such kind of memories and elect them. I thank you.
We'd like to thank that speaker, and with that, we've had the case of proposition. We welcome the case from the first speaker from side opposition to begin their case.
Here, here.
So House, autonomy is important, whether mentally, physically, or in other any form, or in any other form, right? So the most potent thing you can do to anyone is take away this autonomy. Why is this important? Because autonomy is very, very effective, and by you stripping any autonomy from anyone, you can, one, cause them to do anything you want, or give anyone incentive to change in whatever form, right? So we think any mitigation of this, which is basically their whole case, that even if they'll be free, it's like mitigated autonomy, so it's restricted by certain structures, cannot stand, right? And in this form, in the form where it serves as a corrective measure in society to like mitigate a lot of the harms, we think that cannot stand and it becomes problematic. So I'm going to give you two things in my speech. One, the whole aspect of choice. I'm going to do analysis of choice and why giving them this choice becomes principally unjustified and violates the key tenets of the criminal justice system. Secondly, I'm going to talk about how it opens the possibility of actual palpable harm to themselves and their peers. So one, to the aspect of choice. So the whole essence of prison or any other punitive action is the loss or mitigation of choice, like I've talked about in my framing, right? Because you did do some wrong. So why is this true? One, we think when you're grounded, even like as a kid, when you're grounded and you're told to go to your room, that is autonomy that was stripped from you, and this was incentive for you to be better, right? We think when you're fine, right, you lose the autonomy or the choice to use that money in some other way. You have to use it in a way that has been ascribed by the state or whatever law that was. So the reason why this is important is because it gives people this, giving people this choice violates this very principle, right? Because they were convicted of wrong and they lost their autonomy, right? So you're making them move around, that's the first thing. Secondly, you're making them own or even handle possessions, no matter how restricted you might think that they'll be, right? So them saying that these people will probably be limited still cannot stand, because you think this is true, because as a soldier, you're already moving around, you're probably traveling to many bases, and you're probably even handling like weapons and guns and bombs and that kind of thing, and that could manifest to palpable harms because these people are not necessarily benevolent actors, and I'm going to prove that anyway. So why is this harmful? One, we think it violates a key tenet of the criminal justice system, which is retribution. Why? A victim needs to see a perpetrator pay in some form, right? They need to experience some form of pain or some form of probably hurt that because they caused other people. So even if it won't be the victim, we think the victim's family gets closure by seeing a perpetrator getting hurt. We think by you stripping away these, by you giving them the autonomy that they have so rightfully lost, you'll be violating this principle, and it will be inconsistent with even things like closure and basically people coping with what the criminal justice system provides for, right? To the second argument, and why it opens the possibility of actual palpable harm to themselves and their peers. We have proven that choice in and of itself and its affordance by people, by societal metrics, and those who have lost it is harmful, right? So what is the implication of this? One, you think you likely free a lot of malevolent actors into society, right? Even if you want to argue that there were some innocent convicts, we think to a great extent people that violated the laws are the ones in prison anyway. And if you give this choice for them to opt into, they likely take it and they'll go and cause further harms in many, many layers that I'm about to analyze. One, even if you will argue that they are restricted, which is basically their whole case, it is still significant enough to cause them harm. Why is this true? Because you think the nature of the alternative in and of itself begs the question of this. One, these are like probably hardened criminals, right, with nothing to lose. Many of them will go to a battlefield, right? They'll probably, you see the way you march with guns behind people. So you can't trust somebody who's mental health is like not good, you can't trust them because they'll shoot you. They'll know that they have nothing else to live for. Maybe society has condemned them. Maybe they've been cancelled by their people. Maybe their families won't have them back. They'll probably want to kill people, and like they'll not have repercussions of it because like they've gotten the worst of it. We think prison, for somebody who had like a life sentence or anything like that, they had nothing to lose. By you affording them this choice, you're just opening the can of worms to more people, especially to the people who had no alternative. You think you're only perpetuating this harm to a great degree, right? So we think they can even shoot their peers, they can even like be crafty and hide bombs and grenades and all of these things, and it can harm people. This again violates another principle of the criminal justice system, which is basically it being a preventive mechanism, something that deters further harm, or something that avoids perpetuation of harms by restricting people. Before I continue, I'll take a clarity if there's any. Yes.
We restricted ourselves to 3 types of prisoners: low security inmates, medium, and minimum.
Okay.
What you're talking about serial killers. We didn't talk about serial killers.
Okay, so I think I need to clarify a few things. One, I was engaging with their worst case, right? Assuming, because we've already proved the likelihood of many people being convicted in prison. We think even if it's low, high, whatever, that one serial killer, even if you want to say you have 100 people who stole the neighbor's sugar or chicken and they were in prison, that one person can harm 100 or 1,000 other people when they go to the battlefield. They can be a suicide bomber or that kind of thing. We don't think that is necessarily a harm that we want to incur, right? So we think to a great degree, you probably fragmenting them into certain degrees of whatever harm they caused is not really important and does not engage with the crux of the debate. So let us engage with their best case, assuming they run an ideal case from the second speaker. So their best case is that this is probably restorative, and they talked about this, right? These can be probably beneficial members to society, and they can be productive. We say that this is not completely a punishment, as people opt into the military anyway. They have that autonomy that we talked about, right? Secondly, engaging with their best case on each being restorative. We tell you that the harm is not worth it because of the people you could kill in that regard, but also secondly, the stripping away of choice is more important than simply saying people will go and help you in wars, because many people opt into the military anyway without being coerced and told that you have to do that. With that, I rest our case. Thank you.
So we have had the case from proposition and the case from opposition. If you are worried about what prison looks like and what the military looks like, I think this was the best opportunity to learn what these things ideally look like. If you still do not have any clarity, do not wait for so long. We will come back to the show with more information from side proposition and opposition for what prison looks like and what the military looks like ideally. So do not touch that dial, do not touch that remote. Wait. The break that we just had. If you missed the first half of the debate, from side proposition, we got the argument that we think this idea of prison is actually good and these prisoners need to actually go into the military itself. From side opposition, we got the argument that autonomy of choice is not important for people who've been convicted. Are you ready to hear the second arguments from the second speaker proposition and second speaker opposition? With that, we welcome the second speaker side proposition side to continue the argument for proposition. Here.
Honorable judges, my name is Daniel Wambua Moisio, here for the proposers, and we are here to advance our discussion on the above motion. Now, the opposition's case is that autonomy of prisoners does not matter, and yet they are law students. And yet they are aware of the recent case by the Court of Appeal that actually it matters because they are human beings. They have their rights, not just under our Constitution, but on other treaties that we have ratified and signed into. They seem to forget that, but we have reminded them. Now, panelists honorable judges, and our viewers, we have given a very detailed scope of our case. And we have, because we are the one bringing the motion in the House, we have defined the terms. And we are only to discuss this motion according to the definition of the terms. And we have limited ourselves not to maximum and supermax inmates, but to low security, minimum, and medium, in which my partner has given an example of how many young men we have in industrial area that are there because they bought a phone that was stolen from someone else. Now, the other thing that we seem to forget is that why do we have the criminal justice to begin with? Why do we have that system in our governments? Let me give you an example, judges. In California, according to the Legislative Analyst Office, it costs the Californian government an approximate of $131,000 to keep an inmate in prison for a year. Now, assuming the dollar in Kenya is 150 shillings, that is that will give you close to a couple of millions, 15 million or thereabout, give or take. Now, according to the standard in 2018, it cost our government, the government of Kenya, an approximate of 175 Kenyan shillings to keep one prisoner in prison in a day. And we are not talking about all prisoners. We are talking about the capital offenders. Now, as of that day, as of 2018, we had a little over 6,800 capital offenders in prison in Kenya. That one gives you 1.2 million in a day to keep those prisoners in prison. In a year, that gives you, give or take, $500 million. So we're not just looking at what the criminal justice does to prisoners. We're also looking at the taxpayer. How much does it cost them to keep them there? Just a minute. And then the second thing we are looking at, why do we have the prison system to begin with? We all know, it's common knowledge that we have rehabilitation, we have training and education that happens there. But do these things also happen in the military? Yes, they do. In fact, the military is more thorough than the prison system. And the reason is why we restricted ourselves to these three types of inmates is because these are people that can unlearn their behaviors. Because we all know how psychology works. We can always replace our behavior. We cannot do away with it, but we can replace it. That is common knowledge. That is basic psychology. And that is exactly what military does. It replaces that behavior with something else useful. Now, in Kenya, as of 2018, a military officer, starting from the lowest ranking to the highest ranking, that is the Chief of Defense Forces, it was, the paying them the salary was in between 7,000 to 1.2 million. And of course, we know it's common knowledge, that is based on your rankings and education. That brings me to the other point, very important point that we must state, that not all prisoners never went to school. We have prisoners who are in prison and they went to school. Last year, we saw a doctor being jailed because of negligence. Those are people that are useful. They can join the military. They can become military doctors. So why do we have to keep them there for 15 years? Waste their time, waste their energy. Their parents pumped money to train them in school, while they can be in the military and be useful. Yes.
So on your metric of like cost to the state, isn't it more expensive when people are killed and like there is investigations that are launched and you have lawyers and all of these people? Doesn't that cost more money, especially the bureaucracy in the criminal justice system? Also, doesn't it get cheaper with scale when you service more people? Even if you want to argue that one prisoner costs the state's money. So isn't scalability cheaper?
Not at all. And I think that's simple mathematics, judges, that for example, he has asked that, isn't it costly when we have people still killing each other in the society and when we let them to go to the military? Now, we have already stated what happens in the military. And we know what happens. We have the court martials for that matter. They deal with military officers that do not follow orders. See? So our question is, even if we take these prisoners to prison,
won't we still have people killing each other out here? They will still be there. So we are not doing away with the criminal minds. And that's why, I repeat again, we restricted ourselves to that. Because we know, for example, for a serial killer, he's an habitual offender. That one we know. Someone that has raped 10 times. We know the case of Onyancha, or so his name is. Those are habitual offenders. We're not talking about that in our motion today. We are talking about very petty offenders that can be useful. Some of them are IT students that hacked. We can use those brains in our National Intelligence Service. So why do we want to confine them in prison? It doesn't make sense. We are using a lot of money to keep them there. While we can reduce that budget, while they are in the military, because keeping them in the military as compared to keeping them in prison, very cost effective. Thank you. That was my time.
We have had the case from proposition. We now welcome the second speaker, opposition side, to give a response to what proposition have offered. Hear, hear.
We feel like proposition side are actually being highly unfair. You cannot only narrow this debate. You cannot narrow the debate to only a certain group of people if at all you're trying to ensure effective working of the justice system. If at all they actually decide to narrow this debate, number one, it's actually going to be unfair. And secondly, it's actually going to question the legitimacy of the criminal justice system in itself. So first of all, the burden on government bench is not to actually debate whether we are going to reform this, whether they're actually going to create a better situation or not. The main burden in this debate is to ensure which side is actually going to make sure that these convicts are going to be in the perfect environment that it's going to make sure that they're able to reform and take accountability for whatever they're actually taking. The moment they come and fiat to us about the military and they fail to give us enough analysis, they can wear suits, but they have nothing up here. Now, I would actually like to proceed down to our arguments. First of all, I'd actually like to rebuttal a few points that they actually come and talk to us. They tell us the moment we take them to the military, we're going to ensure proper utilization of skills. We feel like that is quite symmetric. In prisons, you're able to have rehabilitation services where these people are able to actually be able to exercise their skills and they're able to make something out of themselves where they're actually being restricted, right? Secondly, they come and talk to us about you're going to give a good opportunity to the people who are the group that they've already narrowed this specific sort of debate to, right? So first of all, you're not debating if at all you're going to arrest people or not. If at all if at all you're an offender, you've already been identified as an offender, they'll be able to work through the criminal justice system to ensure that even if you are not such a bad offender, they'll be able to give you a sentence that serves you. And secondly, they cannot come and lie to you that the military will be able to ensure this specific sort of thing, because panel, if at all every one of you is actually saying the military is actually intense. Now, you cannot come and tell me that if at all someone is actually a petty offender, they can easily be sent to the military so that they're able to reform. The military is actually intense and very, very demanding. That is not a good sort of alternative to give people who do not deserve an intense template, right? So first of all, just a proper characterization and framing of how prisons and convicts actually look like, right? Now, I feel like the main reason as to why Paul is emphasizing on autonomy is the mere fact that the prisons decide to step in so that they're able to restrict that autonomy. These offenders were able to commit these crimes because they were allowed to exercise their freedoms. The prison itself, it does not entirely take away your human rights. We're still able to provide you food, we're still able to provide you shelter, but we're going to restrict your freedom so that you're not able to exercise yourself in a manner that is going to be an endanger to society, considering that is something that they're actually supposed to be talking about. Secondly, we even feel like the prison itself, it's within our capacity to be able to offer proper mechanisms to ensure reform. Firstly, we've actually been able to show you, number one, it's able to offer rehabilitation services, meaning that these people are actually taking accountability for themselves. Secondly, while actually making something out of themselves. Secondly, we even understand that through prisons, you're giving these convicts an opportunity to be able to have family interactions, meaning that they're not able to have some sort of disconnect, something that they'll not be able to find from the military side. The moment you take them to the military, they're actually being sent away. There's no such connect, and you actually feel like in most scenarios, if at all convicts are taken to prison, the main affiliation that they have to their families, that's what creates the resonance, and it's what incentivizes them to be better individuals. From the military, you're not able to get that specific sort of alternative, right? Secondly, on the convicts, right, we come and feel like in as much as they're actually convicts, they're still human beings, and that is why we are able to take them in through the prisons, because through the prisons, we're still able to acknowledge that there are people who want to change, and to give them an opportunity to be able to do so. pursue. Why? Because the moment they're being held within a specific restricted space, they get to understand that if at all I'm about to go and exercise my autonomy in future, I have to make sure that I reform my ways, and I have to make sure that I'm able to cater for society and be able to provide a utilitarian benefit in itself. So why exactly are we finding that the proposal that they're trying to bring in, it's going to be quite detrimental? First of all, if at all they want to talk to us about them being allowed to do this, it means that you're actually giving them a choice. It means that you're even going to have a situation where you're going to have an overcrowding in the military. And that is something they're not able to combat. Because the moment you allow a convict to be able to choose the punishment that they want, they only think about whatever they actually just want to pursue. Meaning that you're even going to have an overcrowding in the military, which is going to have a trickle-down effect where the government is now going to be having a strain in sustaining these military in themselves. They come and talk to us about the government having a strain in arresting convicts. They're not even able to analyze that to us, such a flimsy response. Secondly, they come and tell them, even at the end of the day, prisons are actually going to lose their essence because they've already been established. Now, what are these prisons actually going to do? They fail to provide accountability for that. We question them on that metric. Thirdly, we even give you a proper scenario where we're going to have these individuals having better evaluations of themselves, considering the picture that Paul was able to create to you. If at all these individuals are actually being taken to the military, where other people actually go by choice, you are actually endangering them by putting them in a space where we are having other harmful actors who want to pursue their own interests. At the end of the day, they were given a choice to be able to go somewhere where they feel like they're able to go, right? So at the end of the day, they even lack that concept of self-evaluation, and that is something that only prisons are able to offer through restricting your freedom. They're not able to defend that. Fourthly, we even have a situation where we're going to harm malevolent actors in the society. Also, just like tying back to the characterization that Paul was even to give you. But even if we're able to take their best case scenario and you actually come and talk to you that you're actually going to limit down to the 3 actors, as I was able to tell you, it's actually going to be unfair because we are other individuals not being given the same option that you're giving them. And secondly, we're even continuously going to question the legitimacy of the criminal justice system, because why are you only allowing a few individuals to be able to do this? On a comparative level, firstly, we are able to protect society and other malevolent actors from these individuals who are constantly being given this autonomy. Secondly, we're even going to restrict the choice and allow these convicts themselves to be able to evaluate themselves and gain better accountability. And thirdly, we're still able to preserve you and give you a better connection with your family, something that prisons are able to give you. On their side, family disconnect, no accountability for individuals, continuous questioning of the legitimacy of the justice system. You can wear a suit from Italy, but if at all you do not understand the legitimacy of law, that is quite questionable. Proud to oppose the motion.
The speakers / lawyers have battled it out in this particular debate. Opposition and proposition have talked about whether prisoners should ideally serve their prison sentence or join the military. What are the benefits and what are the harms? Tell us at home, what do you think? Should prisoners serve their sentence or join their military? Tell us, do you think proposition or opposition won? Or if you just want to speak to us, our handles are ready for you. On X, on KT, at KTN Home. And if you want to message us, here's our WhatsApp number, 0759434389. 0759434389. Make sure to message us and let us know what you think, and we promise you we will respond or engage you on all levels. Thank you for letting us know what you think. And before that, after this particular break, we'll be having our judges giving us feedback for who won and who lost. If you did not catch us at the beginning of this particular debate, we talked about the new structure for campus debates. If you win, you get 3 points. If you lose, you get 1 point. But do not lose hope. Your speaker scores will be very important for rising you on the tab or even on the scale. Now, we are back from the lovely break with anticipation loading. Our speakers are worried, will they win this round or will they not? And the judges are smiling because they know who has won and who has lost, possibly. Before they finally make their decision, we will give the judges an opportunity to ask a question to the proposers and a question to the opposers. The answers may sway the judges or they may not. That is entirely up to how the questions are answered or the judges themselves. To begin this off, we have Brian Muindi as a judge asking the question to the proposers.
Okay, team proposers. How you answer this question will determine whether you're best suited for the next round. So, engaging you on the context of low and minimum prison inmates, the question is, what will deter or prevent people from committing petty crimes just to enlist in the military? Won't that be problematic to society?
Thank you for that question. We now welcome Charity to also ask a question to side opposition.
When you have an alpha female in the team, you expect people to sweat. I'm sweating. But my question is, Article 27 of the Kenyan Constitution specifically says discrimination is wrong, depending, be it gender, be it age, be it criminal offense. So me as a carpenter, I'm arrested, I go to prison, and I'm able to further my skills. I am able to do what I love. But me as a getaway robber of a driving car, maybe I helped someone escape with robbery, I'm not able to enlist in the military. I do not have that option to choose to advance my career, to advance my hobby in life. So why would you go against the Constitution you're supposed to defend?
They have been asked the questions, and we welcome one of the proposers to respond to the question directed towards them.
So to the question asked by the judge on what will deter people from committing petty crimes so that they can join military, of course, we are all aware of you don't just join the military. There's always a system. There are a lot of checks and balances. And before you even get there, we have the court process itself, you know. We have different experts. We have psychologists. We have forensic experts. So at the end of the day, you not just land in the military because it is your right. It's not a right. There'll be a system that you will go through for us to determine that actually you are more profitable in military than you are in prison. Yes.
Okay, so my understanding of the question is asymmetric treatment between two offenders, despite the Constitution providing that everyone should be equal. We say that's fine. You have your rights, but not every right you possess is an absolute right. You exist with other people. You know, I can only do my activities to the extent where it does not hurt you. Absolute freedom will mean me hurting you. So this person, even if they're a productive carpenter or society or whatever, if the state feels or if the mechanisms that are in place feel that they may harm other people, that is where that right has to be stopped and has to be catered for. Thank you.
The debaters have argued and have told you whether the prison systems are better or the military is better. They have also told you what is good for the criminal justice system and what is not good for the criminal justice system. The question is, were the judges swayed by the arguments that were posed to the debate? A reminder, a winning team gets 3 points, losing team gets 1 point, but they also get speaker scores that elevate them higher on their score sheet. Now I'll welcome the judges to give us feedback for who won and who lost this round.
Hi, everyone. So just to give general feedback on how the debate went, the debate was a policy debate. So essentially, we expected to hear why or what's the value for these convicts to join the military or to be given this choice to join the military versus completing their sentences in prison. So what we get from the proposition side, or what we ought, or what we're asking ourselves as the judges to get from the proposition side is how this will work, for how long are these people going to be enrolled, especially in the military, especially even for the 3 categories that you talk about, the minimum, low, and medium security inmates, and on the likelihood of importance or deterrence that this comes about. So what we get from proposition side is you give us the cost implications for keeping these prisoners in jail. You go all the way from the analysis of keeping 1 inmate a day and the trickle-down effect of keeping all of these prisoners, not just the 3 categories, but all of them largely in a year, and the statistics from the 2015 and the 2018 reports that you give us. You also give us that these people have a choice now, or have a chance now to explore their skills, or to explore what they actually learned even if they were outside the jails. So what we get from opposition also is opposition tells you that giving this choice will violate the criminal justice system. This will prevent deterrence, this will prevent rehabilitation, this will prevent restoration, even for the victims who are wronged themselves. So this even begs the question of this now determines, or this really harms the legitimacy of the criminal justice system itself. So the debate now goes into a matter of weighing between these two arguments from these prestigious lawyers, which one therefore sways the judges best. So we get from opposition side that opposition tell you that when you're being kept in prison, you have rehabilitation, you have restoration, there is restorative justice even for the victims themselves. But for the inmates, essentially where they focus their arguments on, they tell you that because they've been denied the autonomy of freedom, they now have no alternative but to change their ways or to change their actions, so that they now get to enjoy this autonomy later on when they leave this prison after this. So this essentially derives that rehabilitation out of them, the restoration even for the victims and even for the inmates themselves. So how they beat the counter of the cost implication, or given this chance to actually explore their skills out while in the military, they tell you also that even in the prisons, these people also have a chance to actually explore their skills. If they are doctors, if they are carpenters, if they are trainers, they have this chance to explore their skills. But they go even further of telling you the actual harm that this has on when you actually give these people to own guns and be in the military and actually do all of this while having the autonomy of freedom, even if they were convicts in the first place. So on that basis, weighing down on the two arguments, the judges unanimously made a decision today that the law school that wins this debate is the law school from team opposition, that is Team UN.
The judges have discussed and decided that the University of Nairobi has won this particular debate from side opposition. They have managed to garner 3 points from this particular round. They have another round to garner another 3 points and be at the top of the score. For MKU, they have also won 1 point, and they have an opportunity to debate for another round and win possibly another 3 points and not have to battle for their lives in the out rounds. So, what exactly did you get from this show? We were therefore discussing few issues in society. Should prisoners ideally have an opportunity to enlist in the military instead of serving their sentence, and whether that would be good for the criminal justice system as a whole? We have debated, we have argued, we have told you so many things, and you've understood the debaters, stroke lawyers, from all their perspectives and their angles. Thank you for joining us for this show. My name is Mercy Vugutsa. I was your host.